The large meeting room was filled with strange beings from across the galaxy. Bright lights shone down on Ambassador Keth as he stood in the center of the chamber. His crystal-like body reflected the lights as he moved. Fear showed in his voice as he spoke to the war leaders of the Vardanian Empire. General Vox sat at the main table with his forearms crossed. His dark eyes stared at the crystal being with annoyance. Around him sat other military leaders who had conquered many worlds for their empire. They had never lost a battle and felt proud of their power. Keth raised his hands to get their attention. His people had been watching Earth for 3 years. What they saw there scared them more than any enemy they had ever faced. "Please listen to me," Keth said. "You must not attack the third planet in the Sol system. The humans who live there are not what they seem to be. My scouts have seen things that worry us greatly." General Vox made a sound like laughter. "Ambassador, your people have lived in peace for too long. You have become weak and afraid. We have studied these humans. They use simple weapons that throw metal pieces. Their ships burn chemicals to fly through space. They have only just learned to split atoms. How can such backward beings threaten our mighty fleet?" The wall screen showed Earth spinning slowly in space. Blue oceans and green land masses made it look peaceful and harmless. Data scrolled past showing human wars and their weapons. Everything looked primitive compared to Vardanian technology. Commander Zara stood up from her seat. She had planned the invasion of 7 star systems. General Vox is right. These humans fight with crude tools. They explode chemicals to hurt each other. We have energy weapons that can melt mountains. Our ships can destroy cities from space. What possible danger could they be? Keth stepped closer to the main table. His crystal form glowed brighter when he felt strong emotions. "You do not understand what makes them dangerous. It is not their weapons or their ships. It is what they are inside. My people watched them fight among themselves. They are hunters who work together in groups. They have turned fighting into an art. They do not just fight for land or resources like other species. They fight for ideas they cannot touch." "What do you mean?" asked General Vox. "They fight for freedom. They fight for honor. They fight for the safety of their young. They will die rather than surrender when they believe in something. This is not normal behavior for most species in the galaxy." Admiral Thane stepped forward. He commanded the invasion fleet of 10,000 ships. His massive body cast shadows across the room. "These are just emotions, Ambassador. Every species feels emotions. We have defeated beings much stronger than these humans. Fear will not stop the Vardanian Empire." Keth projected new images onto the wall screen. The pictures showed human entertainment and stories. Movies about wars with alien invaders. Games where players fought against superior enemies. Books about humans defeating advanced alien races. "Look at what they do for fun," Keth said. "They spend their free time imagining fights with beings like us. They practice fighting superior enemies in their minds. They have been preparing for this day without even knowing we existed." The military leaders looked at the images with confusion. Most species in the galaxy created entertainment about peaceful things or simple adventures. Humans seem to enjoy stories about war and conflict. "They are a violent species," said Commander Zara. "This proves they are primitive and brutal. Civilized beings do not glorify war." "No," Keth replied. "You still do not see the truth. Look closer at their stories. In every tale, the humans are outnumbered and outgunned. Their enemies have better weapons and more ships. But the humans always find a way to win. They study their enemies. They learn their weaknesses. They use their minds instead of just their strength." General Vox waved his hand dismissively. "Stories are not reality, Ambassador. In real war, strength defeats weakness. Technology defeats primitives. Numbers defeat the few. This is the way of the universe, is it?" Keth asked quietly. "Then explain this to me. Why do our deep space sensors show that human governments argue with each other in public, while secretly building the largest military force in their planet's history? Why do they broadcast their weaknesses for all to hear while hiding their true capabilities?" The room became quiet. The military leaders had not considered this possibility. Keth continued speaking. "My scouts discovered something else. The humans have been sending signals into space for decades. They want other species to know they exist, but the signals they send show only their primitive side. They hide their real technology. They make themselves look weak on purpose." "You suggest they knew we were coming?" Admiral Thane asked. "I know they did. Our scout ships that disappeared over the last 5 years were not lost to accidents. The humans captured them. They have been studying our technology and learning our language. They know who we are and what we can do." Commander Zara shook her head. "This is impossible. Our stealth technology is beyond their understanding. They cannot detect our ships when we do not want to be seen. Keth's crystal body flickered with sadness. Your stealth hides you from their eyes and their machines. But it does not hide you from their gravity sensors. Humans discovered that large objects bend space around them. They have been watching every ship that entered their system. The implications of this news worried some of the military leaders. If humans could detect their scout ships, then they might know about the invasion fleet as well. Even if this is true, General Vox said, it changes nothing. We have 10,000 ships. They have maybe a few hundred primitive vessels. Numbers will decide this battle, will they? Keth asked. He projected one final image onto the screen. It showed human history over thousands of years. Small groups defeating larger armies. Weak tribes overcoming powerful empires. Again and again, humans had won battles they should have lost. There is something else you should know about humans, Keth said. Something my people learned when we first tried to contact them. They do not fight just to win. They fight to make sure their enemy can never hurt anyone again. When humans go to war, they do not seek to conquer or control. They seek to end the threat completely, even if it costs them everything they have. The War Council members looked at each other with uncertainty, but their decision had already been made. The Vardanian Empire had never failed to conquer a planet, and they would not let fear change that record. General Vox stood up to end the meeting. We have heard your warnings, Ambassador, but the Empire does not retreat from primitive worlds. We launch our attack in 3 days. If these humans are truly as dangerous as you claim, then we will destroy them from orbit before they can fight back. As the meeting ended and the military leaders left to prepare their ships, Keth sent a message to his home world. The humans were right about something in their stories. Sometimes a trap is not meant to catch prey. Sometimes it is meant to make sure the hunter never hunts again. 3 days passed and the Vardanian invasion fleet appeared at the edge of the Sol system. 10,000 massive ships formed perfect lines in space. Their dark metal hulls gleamed with weapons that could crack planets in half. Admiral Thane stood on the command bridge of his flagship called the Dominator. Through the large viewing window, he watched Earth grow bigger as they moved closer. The bridge hummed with activity as officers worked at their stations. Screens showed data about human activities on the planet and in space around it. Everything looked exactly as their intelligence reports had predicted. Sir, called Navigation Officer Yax from his control panel. We are detecting many human ships leaving the planet. It looks like they are running away to their moon and to the red planet they call Mars. Admiral Thane nodded with satisfaction. This was what he expected from a primitive species when faced with superior force. Fear made them act predictably. Weapons Officer Kral, prepare to show them our power, Thane ordered. Destroy one of their fleeing ships so they understand what they face. The main weapon on the Dominator began to charge with energy. The massive beam cannon could destroy a small moon if fired at full power. Red energy built up in the weapon's core as it prepared to fire. Target locked on the nearest transport ship, sir, Kral reported. The vessel appears to be carrying refugees fleeing the planet. Fire, Thane commanded. A brilliant red beam shot across space toward the human ship. The energy moved faster than light and struck the vessel in its center. A bright explosion lit up the darkness of space. When the light faded, the ship was gone, leaving only scattered pieces of metal floating in the void. Sir, Tactical Officer Nem called out with confusion in his voice. The explosion was much larger than we expected. The ship seems to have been carrying some kind of explosive material that made the blast bigger. Admiral Thane shrugged. Probably their primitive fuel. These chemicals they use are unstable and dangerous. Continue the attack. Target their military bases on the planet's surface. But as the fleet moved deeper into the solar system, strange things began happening. Human ships that looked like they were running away would suddenly turn around and fly straight into Vardanian vessels. When they hit, they exploded with the force of nuclear weapons. Admiral Commander Zara reported from her station. We are losing ships to these ramming attacks. The human vessels are not trying to escape. They are trying to damage us. More explosions lit up space around the fleet. What the Vardanians had thought were panicked civilians fleeing for their lives were actually disguised weapons flying straight into their formation. Sir, Intelligence Officer Vor called out, our deep scanners are showing massive energy readings from the planet's surface. Something is happening to their cities. The main viewing screen showed major human population centers. Tall buildings were falling down, but not from Vardanian weapon fire. The structures were collapsing in controlled demolitions that sent them sinking into the ground. They are destroying their own cities, Thane said with confusion. But why would they do such a thing? The answer came from Chief Analyst Hex, who was studying the scanner data. Sir, our deep scans show enormous underground complexes beneath every major city. The humans were not evacuating to space. They were moving underground. These facilities appear to be heavily protected military bases. Suddenly, the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets came alive with activity. Thousands of space rocks that had been catalogued as harmless debris revealed themselves as hidden weapons platforms and secret bases. "Ambush!" Tactical Officer Nem shouted. "The asteroids are launching missiles at us. Thousands of them." But these were not the simple chemical rockets the Empire expected. The missiles moved with incredible speed and could change direction in ways that seemed impossible. They weaved between Vardanian ships like living things and struck with perfect accuracy. "How is this possible?" Admiral Thane demanded. Their technology readings showed they were primitive. The answer came from an unexpected source. A human communication signal broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Vardanian language. The image showed a middle-aged human male wearing military clothes. He sat calmly in what looked like an underground command center. "I am General Jake Morrison, Commanding Officer of Earth Defense Command," the human said. "I believe you are Admiral Thane of the Vardanian Empire. We have been expecting you for quite some time." Thane felt shock run through his body. "You speak our language. How is this possible?" Morrison smiled, and there was something dangerous in that expression. "We have been listening to your communications for 5 years, Admiral. Did you really think a species that survived ice ages and asteroid impacts would not notice alien ships watching our system? Impossible. Our stealth technology works by bending light and blocking electromagnetic signals," Morrison interrupted. "Very clever, but it does nothing to hide the way your ships bend space around them. We have been tracking every vessel in your fleet since you first entered our system to spy on us." The tactical display showed Vardanian ships taking heavy damage from all directions. Their neat formations were breaking apart as human weapons appeared from everywhere. Weapons platforms emerged from inside comets, from fake space debris, and even from the hulls of what looked like broken satellites. "You want to know the beautiful thing about being the hunted species? For most of our evolution, Admiral," Morrison continued as more explosions destroyed Empire ships, "we learned to think like hunters. We learned to set traps, and we learned that the best trap is the one where the predator thinks they are hunting, right up until they realize they are the prey." Admiral Thane watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. "This cannot be happening," he said. "You are primitives. You fight with chemical explosives and metal bullets." Morrison's smile grew wider. "Who told you that?" "Oh, yes, we did. In every broadcast, every signal, every piece of information we let you steal from us. Amazing how easy it is to fool someone when you tell them exactly what they want to hear." The trap was not just military, Thane realized. It was psychological. The humans had deliberately appeared weak and divided to make the Empire overconfident. "You see," Admiral Morrison said as another wave of Vardanian ships exploded around them, "we learned something important when we first detected your species. The best way to defeat a superior enemy is not to match their strength. It is to make them underestimate yours." Navigation Officer Yex looked up from his station with panic. "Sir, we have lost over half our fleet. Requesting permission to retreat." But before Thane could answer, Morrison spoke again. "I would not recommend running, Admiral. You see, we have been studying your ships for 5 years. We know exactly how fast they can go and where they might try to hide. But more importantly, we know you have been sending real-time reports back to your Empire through quantum communication. Every ship you lose here sends an instant message to your leaders." The implications hit Thane like a physical blow. If the Empire knew the fleet was being destroyed, they would send a much larger force to finish what he had started. "So here is what will happen," Morrison continued. "Your surviving ships will power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. My people will treat your wounded and repair your damaged ships. Then we will have a conversation about your real masters." "What do you mean, our real masters?" "The species that created you, Admiral. The ones who modified your genetics and sent you to fight their wars. Did you really think we would attack a fleet this size without knowing who was really behind it?" As more human ships moved to surround the remaining Vardanian vessels, Thane realized the trap was even deeper than he had imagined. The humans had not just prepared to fight his fleet. They had prepared to fight the power behind his empire. As the Vardanian fleet struggled against the devastating ambush, Admiral Thane found himself facing a truth that challenged everything the Empire believed about warfare and conquest. The humans were not just fighting back, they were methodically destroying his forces with a precision that spoke of decades of preparation. Admiral Communications Officer Hex called out in panic. "We are receiving surrender requests from 17 of our ship commanders. They are requesting permission to retreat immediately." Thane felt his blood freeze in his veins. Vardanian warriors never requested retreat. They had been bred for conquest and genetically modified for courage. Their conditioning made them view surrender as worse than death itself. "Denied," he roared. "We are the Vardanian Empire. We do not flee from primitive beings," but General Morrison's voice crackled through their communication system again. Somehow he had overridden their secure channels. "You might want to reconsider that order, Admiral. Your ships are equipped with quantum entanglement communicators, are they not? That means every ship you lose here sends an instant signal back to your home fleet." Thane felt terror run through his body. "How do you know about our quantum communications?" "Because we have been reverse engineering the wreckage of your scout ships for 5 years," Morrison replied calmly. "The ones you thought were destroyed in accidents or equipment failures. We salvaged them, every single one. And here is what we learned about your species, Admiral." The viewing screen shifted to show detailed biological scans of Vardanian body structure. It also showed technical specifications of their weapons and tactical analyses of their military methods. "You are not conquerors by nature," Morrison continued. "You are a species that was conquered by a superior enemy about 8,000 years ago. Your current military structure, your genetic modifications, even your cultural obsession with conquest, it is all imposed by your real masters, the hegemony." Thane's 4 eyes went wide with shock. The hegemony was the Empire's most classified secret. Even most Vardanians did not know they were essentially a slave species, bred and modified to serve as the military arm of a shadow empire that preferred to remain hidden. You see, Admiral, humans have a particular talent. We are very good at recognizing the signs of a slave species trying to act like masters. We have done it ourselves throughout our history. We know what it looks like when a conquered people try to find meaning in conquest. On the tactical display, the Vardanian fleet was now down to fewer than half its original ships. But something else was happening. Human vessels were moving into formation around the remaining Vardanian ships, not to destroy them, but to surround them. "Here is what will happen," Morrison said. "You will order your surviving ships to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. My people will treat your wounded, repair your damaged vessels. And then we will have a conversation about the hegemony." "You expect us to surrender to primitives?" Thane snarled. "No," Morrison replied, and his tone became deadly serious. "I expect you to surrender to a species that is about to declare war on your real masters. You see, Admiral, we humans have a saying, 'The enemy of my enemy is my friend.' And right now you and your people are as much victims of the hegemony as anyone else." The implications hit Thane like a physical blow. "You would fight the hegemony. You have no idea what they are capable of. They command 300 star systems. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of even ours, maybe," Morrison admitted. "But they made one critical mistake. They sent a slave army to test us instead of coming themselves, and now we know they exist. More importantly, we know they are afraid enough of direct confrontation to hide behind proxy forces." Medical Officer Ken looked up from her console with confusion. "Sir, the human vessels that are approaching us, they are broadcasting medical assistance codes. They are offering to help our wounded. This was unprecedented in all the Empire's campaigns. No enemy had ever offered medical aid during active combat. Species either fought to the death or surrendered completely." "Why?" Thane asked, though he was not sure if he was asking his crew or the human general. Morrison seemed to understand. "Because unlike your masters, we do not see conquered enemies as resources to be exploited. We see potential allies. Your people have been fighting their wars for 8,000 years. You know their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. That knowledge is worth more to us than your destruction. And if we refuse, then you will die here, your ships will be salvaged for intelligence, and we will learn what we need to know from the wreckage. But your people back home will still be slaves to the hegemony. And when they eventually come for us directly, no one will be left to warn them about what humans are really capable of." The bridge fell silent except for the sounds of distant explosions and the hum of damaged systems. Thane realized he was facing a choice that would determine not just the fate of his fleet, but potentially the future of his entire species. "You are asking us to commit treason against our masters," he said finally. "No," Morrison corrected. "I am asking you to commit freedom against your oppressors. There is a difference. The question is, are you ready to learn what that difference feels like? Tactical Officer Nem looked up from his station. Admiral, if what they say is true, then every war we have fought, every world we have conquered, every species we have destroyed, we were just tools being used by someone else. The weight of this realization settled over the Vardanian officers like a heavy blanket. They had believed themselves to be proud warriors building an empire. Instead, they had been unknowing servants eliminating their master's competition. What happens to us now? Commander Zara asked. Even if we wanted to rebel against the hegemony, they control our supply lines, our breeding programs, our entire civilization's infrastructure. Morrison's voice carried something that might have been sympathy. That is where humanity comes in, Commander. You see, the hegemony made a critical error when they sent you after us. They assumed we were just another primitive species that needed to be eliminated before we became a threat. But you are not primitive at all, Thane said. Oh, we are primitive compared to the hegemony, Morrison admitted. But we have something they do not expect and cannot easily counter. We are unpredictable. We are not genetically modified for obedience. We are not psychologically conditioned for submission. And we have a very particular response to bullies, Medical Officer Ken interrupted. Sir, the human medical ships are requesting permission to dock with our damaged vessels. They say they have supplies and doctors who can help our wounded. Thane looked around his bridge. Half his crew was injured. His ship was badly damaged. His fleet was broken, but for the first time since the battle began, he felt something other than despair. Admiral Morrison said quietly, "With respect, you were never anything more than slaves. The only question is whether you are ready to be free." The question hung in the air like smoke. Around them, space was filled with the wreckage of the mighty Vardanian fleet. But it was also filled with human ships offering help instead of demanding surrender. General Morrison, Thane said slowly, "If we accept your offer, what guarantee do we have that you will not simply use us as the hegemony has done?" "None," Morrison replied honestly. "Except this. Freedom cannot be given, Admiral. It can only be chosen. And once chosen, it must be defended by those who choose it. We cannot make you free. We can only offer you the chance to make yourself free." Thane looked at his officers, seeing the same mixture of fear and hope in their eyes that he felt in his hearts. They had come here as conquerors and found themselves offered something they had never known they wanted: liberation. Admiral Thane stood in the medical bay of the human vessel called Defiance, watching in amazement as human doctors worked alongside Vardanian medics to treat wounded soldiers from both sides. It had been 3 days since the ceasefire, and the cultural shock was still overwhelming his crew. "This is not natural," muttered Commander Zara as she observed a human surgeon carefully repairing the damaged exoskeleton of a Vardanian warrior. "In our experience, victorious species either execute prisoners or enslave them. They do not heal them." Captain Lisa Park, the commanding officer of the Defiance, overheard the comment. "Maybe that is because your experience has been limited to dealing with the hegemony and species they have influenced. This is how free species behave, Commander." Thane turned to face the human captain. Over the past few days, he had been learning disturbing truths about the galaxy that the hegemony had hidden from the Vardanian Empire. "Captain Park, your intelligence briefing suggests that the hegemony has been manipulating galactic politics for thousands of years. How did your species discover this, Park?" Gestured to a nearby workstation where human and Vardanian analysts were working together over star charts. "It started when we detected your scout ships. Our scientists were puzzled by your species' body structure. You show clear signs of artificial genetic modification, but not the kind a species typically develops for themselves." She pulled up a holographic display showing Vardanian genetic structure. "Look at these markers. Enhanced aggression, increased muscle density, modified brain chemistry for loyalty and obedience. But here's the interesting part. The modifications are designed to make you better soldiers, not better survivors. A species that evolved naturally would prioritize traits that help them adapt to their environment." Thane's tactical officer, Nem, who had also been listening, spoke up. "You are saying we were bred like livestock. More like hunting hounds," corrected Dr. Kevin Barnes, the human lead scientist. "Bred for a specific purpose, to fight wars for someone else." Once we realized that, we started looking at the bigger picture. The display shifted to show a galactic map with highlighted systems. Every major conflict in the past 2,000 years has involved either Vardanian forces or species with similar genetic modifications. The hegemony has been creating client armies and using them to eliminate potential threats to their expansion. But why remain hidden? Thane asked. If they are so powerful, why not conquer openly? General Morrison, who had joined the briefing, answered grimly. Because open conquest creates resistance. Hidden manipulation creates stability. Think about it, Admiral. How many species in the galaxy even know the hegemony exists? Thane considered this carefully. Our intelligence files mention them only as the shepherds or the guiding voice. Most of our people believe they are a benevolent council of advanced beings who provide guidance to younger species. Exactly, Morrison said. They have convinced most of the galaxy that they are helpful mentors while secretly eliminating any species that might challenge their control. We estimate they have prevented at least 30 civilizations from reaching the technological level where they could pose a threat. The implications were staggering. Zara's voice was barely a whisper. The Zephyrian Alliance. They warned us about you, but they also tried to warn us about Earth. Were they trying to protect us from walking into a trap, or were they trying to protect the hegemony from us? Both, probably. Park said. Our intelligence suggests the Zephyrians know the truth about the hegemony, but are too afraid to act directly against them. They have been trying to prevent conflicts that might expose the hegemony's existence. Dr. Barnes pulled up another display. Here is what really convinced us that you were being manipulated. We analyzed the tactical data from your previous conquests. In every case, you were sent against species that were either developing technologies that could threaten hegemony control, or were beginning to ask inconvenient questions about galactic politics. The Meridian Republic, Thane said slowly as understanding dawned. They had developed faster-than-light communication that could not be intercepted. We were told they were developing weapons of mass destruction. They were developing technology that would have allowed free communication across the galaxy, Morrison confirmed. No more controlling information flow. No more hiding the truth about who is really in charge. Tactical Officer Nem looked up from the data he was studying. Admiral, if this is true, then every war we have fought, every world we have conquered, every species we have destroyed, we were just tools. The bridge fell silent as the full weight of this realization settled over the Vardanian officers. They had believed themselves to be proud warriors building an empire. Instead, they had been unknowing servants eliminating their master's competition. What do we do now? Zara asked. Even if we wanted to rebel against the hegemony, they control our supply lines, our breeding programs, our entire civilization's infrastructure. Morrison smiled, and there was something fierce in the expression. That is where humanity comes in. You see, Admiral, the hegemony made a critical error when they sent you after us. They assumed we were just another primitive species that needed to be eliminated before we became a threat. But you are not primitive at all, Thane said. Oh, we are primitive compared to the hegemony, Morrison admitted. But we have something they do not expect and cannot easily counter. We are unpredictable. We are not genetically modified for obedience. We are not psychologically conditioned for submission. And we have a very particular response to bullies. Captain Park continued the thought. We unite against them. Every human government, every military force, every resource on our planet is now dedicated to one goal. Making sure the hegemony learns that some species cannot be controlled or eliminated. You are talking about a war against an enemy that spans 300 star systems. Zara protested. No, Morrison corrected. We are talking about liberation. And we are not going alone. Every client species, the hegemony controls every primitive civilization. They are planning to eliminate every free species they have intimidated into submission. They are all potential allies. He gestured to the mixed human and Vardanian crews working together throughout the ship. This is how it starts. Not with grand declarations or massive fleets, but with the simple idea that no species has the right to control the destiny of another. Thane looked around at his officers, seeing the same mixture of fear and hope in their eyes that he felt in his own hearts. If we do this, if we join you against the hegemony, there is no going back. They will mark us as traitors, Admiral, Morrison said quietly. With respect, you were never anything more than slaves. The only question is whether you are ready to be free. Dr. Barnes spoke up from his workstation. We have been analyzing your ship's communication logs. The quantum entanglement transmissions to your home fleet are not just status reports. They are control signals. The hegemony has been directly controlling your fleet movements from thousands of light years away. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Even their tactical decisions had not been their own. How long? Thane asked quietly. How long have we been puppets? Based on the signal patterns probably since your species first developed spaceflight, Barnes replied. The hegemony has been guiding your entire civilization's development for millennia. Commander Zara stared at the data in horror. We thought we were building an empire, but we were just following orders we did not even know we had received. Morrison nodded solemnly. That is why this matters so much, Admiral. This is not just about stopping the hegemony from conquering more worlds. This is about freeing every species they control. This is about giving the galaxy back its right to choose its own future. Thane looked at the star charts showing the extent of hegemony influence. Hundreds of star systems, all controlled by hidden masters who treated entire civilizations like chess pieces. What would you need from us, he asked slowly. Everything. You know about hegemony technology. Tactics and locations, Morrison replied. But more importantly, we need you to help us contact other client species. They need to know the truth about what they are fighting for. The weight of the decision pressed down on Thane like the gravity of a massive planet. But for the first time in his life, he felt like the choice was truly his to make. 6 months after the failed invasion of Earth, the galaxy was quietly in chaos. The hegemony's carefully maintained illusion of benevolent guidance was crumbling as species after species learned the truth about their shepherds. Admiral Thane, now bearing the title of Free Admiral, in the newly formed Liberation Alliance, stood on the bridge of the reconfigured Dominator. His ship had been rebuilt, using a combination of human and Vardanian technology, creating a vessel unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, Admiral, reported Commander Zara from her position at the tactical station. We are receiving confirmation signals from 17 star systems. The revolution is spreading faster than our most optimistic projections. The view screen showed a holographic map of the galaxy, with liberated systems glowing green. Hegemony-controlled territories appeared in red, and contested areas showed in yellow. The pattern told an incredible story. The largest slave rebellion in galactic history was unfolding across thousands of light years. The Meridian survivors have rebuilt their communication network, reported intelligence officer Vera Santos, one of the human advisors assigned to the ship. Uncensorable messages are spreading across the galaxy faster than the hegemony can suppress them. Captain Lisa Park, now serving as Earth's liaison to the Alliance fleet, reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The beauty of the hegemony's control system is also its weakness. They have spent thousands of years convincing species that they are alone, and that resistance is impossible. Now that those species realize they are not alone, the psychological impact is devastating to hegemony control. But the news was not all positive. Navigation Officer Yex looked up grimly from his console. Admiral, we are detecting massive fleet movements in the hegemony core systems. It appears they are abandoning their subtle approach. The tactical display zoomed in on the galaxy's center where 3 massive fleets were converging. Each fleet contained ships larger than anything in the current conflict. Vessels that could crack planets and boil entire star systems. How long before they reach the outer territories, Thane asked. 3 months, Yex replied. But Admiral, there is something else. Our deep space monitors are detecting energy signatures we have never seen before. The hegemony is not just sending conventional fleets. Dr. Kevin Barnes, who had been working with Vardanian scientists to analyze captured hegemony technology, looked up from his workstation with concern. We think they are deploying reality manipulation weapons, technology that can alter the fundamental laws of physics in localized areas. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. This was not just a war for political freedom. It was a fight for the right to exist in a universe where cause and effect followed natural laws. How do you fight an enemy that can change reality? Zara asked. The same way you fight any bully, came a familiar voice. General Morrison materialized on the view screen from his command center, deep in the Sol system. You make them pay such a high price for their aggression that they decide it is not worth it. General Thane said, Our intelligence suggests the hegemony has technology that could eliminate entire star systems. How do we make them pay a price they are not willing to accept? Morrison's smile was grim but determined. By threatening the one thing they value more than power, their secret. The hegemony's greatest strength is that most of the galaxy does not know they exist. They rule through manipulation and proxy forces. But what happens when everyone in the galaxy knows exactly who they are and what they have done? Intelligence Officer Santos pulled up a new display. We have been working with the Zephyrian Alliance and other neutral species to prepare something the hegemony never expected. A galactic-wide broadcast that will reveal their existence and crimes to every sapient species simultaneously. A truth bomb, Park added. Every atrocity, every manipulation, every species they have eliminated. All of it broadcast on every frequency, transmitted through every communication network, delivered to every corner of the galaxy at the same time. But that will not stop their fleets, Tactical Officer Nem pointed out. No, Morrison agreed, but it will do something more important. It will make them fight alone. Right now they command 300 star systems, because those systems believe they are fighting for benevolent masters. What happens when those systems learn they are actually fighting for the species that has been manipulating and controlling them for thousands of years? Thane began to understand. Civil war. Every hegemony client state would face internal rebellion. Exactly. And that is when we spring the real trap. The view screen shifted to show the human home system, but something was different. Where Earth had once orbited peacefully, there was now a massive construction project. Hundreds of ships and orbital platforms were building something unprecedented. What is that? Zara breathed. That, Morrison said with pride, is humanity's gift to the galaxy. We call it the Freedom Gate. It is a transportation network that will allow instantaneous travel between any liberated systems. When the hegemony's fleets arrive to crush individual rebellions, they will find themselves facing the combined military might of every free species in the galaxy. Dr. Barnes added technical details. We have been reverse engineering hegemony technology while combining it with human innovation and Vardanian military engineering. The result is a transportation system that can move entire fleets across the galaxy in minutes instead of months. The strategic implications are overwhelming, Zara realized. No single system could be isolated and destroyed. Every attack on a liberated world would face immediate reinforcement from across the galaxy. More than that, Park said, it represents something the hegemony has never encountered. True cooperation between free species. Not conquest, not domination, but voluntary alliance for mutual protection. Thane looked around his bridge, seeing humans and Vardanians working together as equals, sharing knowledge and resources freely. 6 months ago, such cooperation would have been inconceivable to him. Admiral Communications Officer Hex announced, "We are receiving priority signals from the Alliance fleet. All units are reporting ready for Operation Revelation." Morrison nodded grimly. In 24 hours, every sapient being in the galaxy will know the truth about the hegemony. After that, there is no going back for any of us. Are you ready for this, Admiral? Park asked Thane. Once we reveal the truth, the hegemony will throw everything they have at stopping us. Thane looked at the tactical display showing the approaching hegemony fleets, then at his crew of former enemies who had become trusted allies. Captain Park, General Morrison. 6 months ago, my people believed we were the greatest military force in the galaxy. Then we met humans and learned what real strength looks like. Now we face an enemy that has controlled the galaxy for thousands of years, and I find myself looking forward to showing them what freedom looks like when it fights back. The final transmission came from across the galaxy as thousands of liberated worlds confirmed their readiness. In a few hours, the truth would be revealed, the hegemony would be exposed, and the greatest war in galactic history would begin. But for the first time in thousands of years, it would be a war where slaves had a chance to become free. All stations report ready, Hex announced. Beginning Galactic Truth broadcast in 10 seconds. As the countdown reached 0, Admiral Thane realized that sometimes the greatest victory is not conquering your enemies. It is helping them discover they were never your enemies at all. The galaxy was about to learn what humans had always known. Freedom is not given by the powerful to the weak. It is taken by the brave from the oppressive, one choice at a time. And today, every species in the galaxy would have that choice.